Well, I wanted to start with kind of where you're at right now and where you've been the past month, which is pretty impressive. So you were on tour with John Legend. You're the bass player for John Legend in London, correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only were you doing this, you also played with Bruce Springsteen and made an appearance on his new movie, Western Stars.
Yes.
That happened. Okay. Oh, and you played with this guy, Ringo Starr.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, he's the biggest deal.
Yeah. Okay. Sabrina Claudio, you co-produced and co-wrote 6 of her songs on the newest album, correct? Truth Is?
Yeah.
Okay. This is all in a month, by the way. So, we're still going.
Okay.
You co-wrote this song, Collide, was it co-wrote or co-produced?
Co-wrote.
Co-wrote
Yeah.
the song for the movie Queen and Slim that's coming out?
That's right.
Yes.
It's gonna be a great
The
movie.
single.
Yeah.
You also played on the latest Kneebody record, Chapters, the bass there. Okay. We're still in the month. And then you co-wrote co-wrote this song with Becca Stevens, whose album is coming out in a few weeks, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
And on top of all of this, you also released your second album.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then last night, you had a show, which I attended and explains why I'm exhausted today. What a great show at the Blue Whale. So that recaps just a month of your life. So I'm very curious to know how this little boy from Denver goes to this rock star. So can you just kind of give us the high level of how did you end up here? Maybe not like here at Google today, but your journey.
Well, thank you for such a generous introduction, and thanks so much for having me. Well, first of all, that first picture of me waving my hands, I really feel like I need to explain somehow. I was on tour. This was about 12 or 13 years ago, and we were at a morning show in Phoenix, and the host had just arrived, and I was just playing bass. I was playing upright bass with 2 great singers, and the host had just arrived in that fake backdrop of the fireplace and the coffee table and yes, let's take it back. The fireplace clearly is very functional, and but it's very sunny outside, and they were actually great sports because they let me pretend I was telling a really engaging story just for that picture, and that's basically what my career is all about. Is a manipulated series of images. Okay, so now that we've passed past that, I've had a big month of a lot of projects have kind of come out in this last month, and that's been a really kind of amazing thing to see kind of just come to fruition. It doesn't always work that way. A lot of projects that I work on as a musician, I guess bass player first, and then most importantly, a collaborator. That's kind of how I like to just frame what I do. I don't have a lot of control on some of the things that I work on in the time frame at which things come out. So this month was pretty remarkable, the way that certain things all came out in one day, and the way that the music industry releases music now. It's usually just on Fridays, and so Fridays if you work on records and you work on projects, Fridays become kind of like mini holidays that kind of pop up, and and sometimes they're projects that I had forgotten, the exact ins and outs of. So it's a lot of fun to go back and listen to. So a bit about my story. I was born in Montreal, And my father is from Iran, and my mother's from the States, and we were, a small family. I was there in Montreal, and then we moved early on to Colorado, to Denver. And Denver is really the city that I kind of claim. I've been there since I was there since I was about 3 years old until I was about 20, 21. And I just grew up in a household that was full of music. My parents were both huge music fans, so there's huge record collections. Everything from blues music like Muddy Waters and Freddie King and Albert King, and classic rock like the Beatles and Jethro Tull and the Rolling Stones, and a lot of soul music, Aretha Franklin, and a lot of experimental stuff that was coming out in the 80s, like Kate Bush and early Peter Gabriel, and even more experimental stuff like the Art Bears and Fred Frith, Henry Cow, and just a lot of music was playing in the house. And as a kid growing up, my parents split up, but they stayed close, kind of raising me. And my mom ended up with who I call my stepfather, a great musician, a guitar player, and a composer named Mike Johnson. He has a band called Thinking Plague. For those of you in the kind of experimental musical world, perhaps
Sorry.
yourself, who knows?
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
Inspire me.
Yeah, no, Tom Waits, I think, has a great song called "I'm Big in Japan," and it's like everybody in the music world has that thing, like, I'm kind of a big deal, and this, like this one like little subset, which is kind of what the music world has always been, but it's really amplified now that everybody can just hear everything at any time that they want. So they're kind of a big deal, and their band is Thinking Plague, and that was a crazy thing to just grow up hearing. Just this really interesting music. He had bands that would open for Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Sonic Youth when I was a kid, and they would come through Denver. Anyway, Denver, growing up, hearing tons of music. I started playing saxophone in the school band, and my dad's Persian, and there tends to be a stereotype of Persian parents that push their kids towards heavily towards engineering or towards medicine, and my dad's he's a real rebel in that world, and he's a chef. He's still working, and he wanted me to become a jazz saxophone player, which if you're Iranian, how just against the grain that is, and I guess that kind of is a part of my being,
Yeah.
And I started playing the saxophone. I enjoyed it, but I really kind of had my calling with getting into punk rock music, getting into bands like Black Flag or Minor Threat, the Dead Kennedys, Suicidal Tendencies, bands that just are just so catered towards a young, preteen, kind of angst-ridden, or didn't know he was angst-ridden until you heard it kind of person like I was. And musically, the music had so much energy, Bad Brains, where it's there's just so much ferocity in this music. And then the instrument that really stood out to me was the bass guitar, and the way that the band would stop and you'd just hear this riff that was just this thundering kind of bass riff, and then the band would kick back in again, and it would be like, whoa, what is that? So there would be that kind of music that I just listened to incessantly around 11 and 12, and also reggae music, which is real bass-driven music as well. And I started picking up little bass lines around the house, on an old acoustic guitar that was lying around the house, right around 12 or 13, and just starting to kind of learn by ear. And the first bass line I learned was the song "Fascination Street" by The Cure. They had an album in '89 called Disintegration. And that bass line is by this guy named Simon Gallup. Is just this gorgeous, like grinding kind of sounding bass line that I kind of just picked out with one finger and my thumb on an acoustic guitar until all those strings broke. And my mom got me a bass for $50 from a kid at the school, and then I was off and running. And then I just kind of fell into a lot of groups of friends, and first there was a couple of kids in high school that would show me how to play certain things so I could play with them. And really something I like to talk about is this idea of having little victories.
Oh, you took my question.
Oh. Okay.
But please elaborate.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, any kind of success, your generous presentation of this last month. For me, success was getting to play with Mike Prasad in the band room during lunch hour in 9th grade. Like, that was success. Like, I get to play with that guy. Like, and he wants to play with me. That's amazing, and we would, play songs by Cream or Eric Clapton or play the 12-bar blues or whatever, and I just got to glom onto his world. And then he graduated high school, and then you're like, then what? Like, that my whole musical, universe just went off to go to college, And then for me, my big break was when I was 15. I went to a musical. There's like a battle of the bands downtown in Denver, where it was a concert in the park and with a lot of local bands. And I went with some friends from high school, and we saw these bands play, and they all seemed like they were just these ancient. They're probably in their like mid-20s, late 20s, but these kind of just like these dudes and these people that were like, it's like, okay, yeah, that's like something, but then all of a sudden this other band comes on stage and they start sound checking, and they like kind of looked like my friends and I, and we were right around the same age, and there were these kind of funny looking hippie guys. Like, they didn't have their shirts on, they were just kind of like picking up, and they looked really funny. They looked like people I'd like to
want to be friends with.
People I'd like to be friends with, and then they picked up their guitars and they started doing little line checks and playing, and it was like, whoa, they're really good. And maybe I saw that, and then that just kind of stuck in my mind. And then a week later, I saw some kid wearing some kid wearing a T-shirt of that band in line out front of a Primus show, in Denver. And I said, I like that band a lot. They're great. That's a great band. And he goes, well, yeah, they are great. That's my brother's band. He plays guitar in that band. And then that led to me meeting his brother, who is the guitar player who played last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Josh?
Josh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That led to that. So that's all to say that literally at 15, and Josh Lopez is a fantastic guitar player, and the upright bass that I play is his dad's upright bass. You form these early friendships, and they really count. And in my world, in my life, they've really been kind of everything, like the foundation for what I've gone on to do and what we've all gone on to do, because he's gone on to write, and some of those songs there, some of the writing that I've done has been with him. So
you met him when you were 15?
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And we all kind of, eventually we all moved out to Los Angeles, and he kind of came out first. For me, I just kind of jumped into that scene with him and all of his friends, and then we kind of kept going into playing bands, and I ended up I ended up moving to Los Angeles about 20 years ago, and then just kind of scrambling my way through every type of musical situation. And one thing leads to the other, and then just
The
over
small victories.
yeah
Right?
of yeah one small victory, and then overnight you have a success, or whatever this is. I don't know what this is. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So would you say when you first started your career that you were first a bass player and then maybe a collaborator? And now, years later, do you feel as if you're more collaborator and then bass player? Or kind of how have the dynamics changed in your career from fresh to LA to where you are now?
I guess I was always in bands, and I always so when you're in a band, or when you're in a working with a group of musicians and you're kind of coming up with creative music, you need to learn how to work together, and you need to learn how to kind of field people's uh, their ideas, and help shape an idea, and be comfortable and flexible with any sort of like criticism or direction. And so that kind of muscle is being developed through just playing in tons of bands. And but yeah, when I moved here, I was primarily a bass player, and I still am. It's I think it's good when you do a few different things to kind of have a hierarchy. Like, I think I am a bass player first, and then I would say I would be uh, maybe a bass player first, and then a songwriter, producer, collaborator. That comes after that, um, and that does evolve over time. Yeah.
So aside from what we kind of ran through in the past month, you've worked with other big names: Bruno Mars, Del Sol, Shania Twain. It's a lot. You have your hands and you're involved in a lot of different projects. So where do you find balance between the creative side of you that produces your own album or is writing music and songs, but then also going on tour with somebody like John Legend? I just am curious, like, what that balance looks like for you.
Yeah, I think balance is a relative term. I don't always manage it as well as I'd like to think that I do. So, and I do struggle with that. I struggle with any sort of balance, and like, kind of sanity through it all. But I think when you talk about like artistic and creative balance, for me, it was really important to always have a project that I felt like could be my outlet. And I kind of learned early on, and then I would hope that this would apply to, just not just the music world, and other realms of, I think that it's good to know that whatever work that you do begets other work that you're gonna do. It just always, if you start doing one thing, you're gonna do that other thing. You're gonna do that thing again in another atmosphere, in another realm. You can kind of keep going. And when I first moved here to Los Angeles, my view was like, I'm gonna take every single gig I can. I'm gonna do everything. I was that guy playing in 4 different bands at this club 5 nights out of the week, and yeah, sure, whatever, and driving all over the everywhere to just play the bass and show up and get to, and then I would run myself ragged doing that. But what was really important for me early on was always trying to keep this artistic thing going, or the feeling that I'm making my own music, or I'm a part of something that's original, that's where I can have a creative input into it. And that was really important to me. I think some of it was just instilled by my dad, who loves art, who loves music, who loves film and would revere, you know, great filmmakers. And also, I always loved to draw and make my own kind of drawings. And then there was also another musician, an older musician, who's a great drummer. His name's Mark Fuller, out in Denver, that would tell me, I don't consider myself a drummer. I can consider myself a musician. And that kind of mindset to me really stuck with me. And so what I kind of tried to chart for myself is like really make decisions at certain points where I want to, and kind of just articulating to myself what I did want to do. I really want to work with artists that I love, that I respect, and have, you know, my kind of bucket list or goal of artists I'd love to work with. And that's always something, like a kind of a branch, or like something that I'd like to follow. But I always, for a long time, for 18 years, I was a part of a band called Kneebody, which is a new music, a fantastic jazz-based new music group that we put together, and they're still together.
Grammy nominated, correct?
Grammy nominated. You always have to throw that in there.
Gotta throw it out there.
That helps. It helps. Grammy nominated in the contemporary classical crossover genre, popularly, but you know, nonetheless, it's important.
It's a Grammy.
Yeah.
Nomination.
Yeah, exactly. That band was a huge exercise in everything, in working closely with musicians that were my closest friends and are my closest friends, that are just so amazing and incredible and inspiring. So I guess part of it is that kind of a thing, like surrounding yourself with people that you're just really inspired by. And that's kind of, you know, just all of those things have just been common threads in what I've always done.
Yeah.
And it's just one thing leads to another, it begets another. And at certain points, it's making the decision, like certain things are maybe not good for that. Like I would want to kind of like, it's like you're trimming a tree. Like I want maybe that branch to kind of like go this way, you know? So like I need to sculpt it another way, you know? So trying to, that's a bit of balance that I've tried to maintain.
Okay. When you talk about some of these smaller victories or these small things and how they've built along the way, it's interesting to me that there's never been a plan B for you. Everything that I've read, everything I've listened to, it's always been music and this path. But it's not an easy industry or career, I'm sure. So where do you think some of that grit and like persistence to just keep going and keep grinding kind of comes from?
I think some of it is, and I've talked about this before in a couple of other interviews and situations. Some of that comes from this. There's an outlook that I really that I'm thankful for having, which is like kind of like a real forced naivete, you know, just a forced kind of like real in certain ways in terms of success.
Yeah.
Looking immediately at those small victories as like that's all that counts. Like I'm just kind of going towards this thing, and not, in other words, like not freaking out too much early on about like, man, I'm not making any money here. Like I'm not like, or even like my playing is not on par with like the majority of bass players that I'm competing with, or I'm just in the marketplace, or, you know, that I'm just around with. You know, it's like, it's kind of, I realized, I knew that was all out there. I knew that like, you know, but it's just kind of putting blinders on and knowing when to put those blinders on and just being like, you know, yeah, this is me. This is the thing that I'm doing, and to try to shut out those voices, you know, early on, because they're just constant. You know, it's constant, and especially now with the hyper-exaggerated mirror that is social media, the hyper-exaggerated mirror that is all of the technology that's available to us all the time, that we can just get sucked into. You can compare yourselves to everyone, you know, and for me, I was really thankful that it was this kind of like, literally like, are you kidding me? Like, I get to play with that drummer, at that cafe, and for free coffee, and $9. Like, what? And it was really that. And I remember people around that time that were just like, man, I'm, like, $9, what is that? Like what? And they kind of saw it for what it was, or whatever that. And they, I remember there were people that were maybe more pragmatic, that were just like, this is not for me. And then, like you were saying, like this business or this music industry, I've got 2 daughters, young daughters. They're 7 and 9. I wouldn't wish this life or this music life on them at all. But I understand it so well that if I saw that they had that kind of drive, I would do everything. I know what to tell them, and I know what to how to encourage them into it. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
I kind of wouldn't wish this life on anyone, but I totally get it when you're doing it. It's like, and I'm like, right on. Like, it's one of these things where you do have to commit, because if you don't commit, you're just a wreck. You're a wreck anyway. But if you're not completely in it, it's just like, what are you doing? Like what? It could be tough.
Yeah, I imagine so. For me personally, I need structure. And so Monday through Friday here, 9 to 5, give or take. Every 2 weeks, a paycheck magically appears in my bank account. My 401k is taken care of, health insurance, like it all just like magically happens and I don't have to think about it. But you, on the other hand, are essentially, you're running your own business while playing and collaborating and practicing, which I have many questions about your practice. So how do you stay structured, stay organized, and stay motivated? Like, where do you find the energy to be like, great, I have to send out 12 invoices. These people haven't paid me. The girls have to go to soccer practice. I have a gig tonight. Oh, and I need to practice. Like,
I don't know. That sounds really overwhelming.
But that's a day in the life, right?
You just made me think of a lot of things I got to go do.
Do you want my pen? You want to start your to-do list?
I'm just excited to get to play with that drummer for like,
Sorry.
Like, come on. Like, let's not force too much reality.
We'll give you some free coffee
on me.
later too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it that is a lot. But I mean, I think that if somebody had told me all of that early on, like that would be your life, I would go just running down the street. I wouldn't know what to do, and along the way you pick up skills and you pick up ways of dealing with whatever it is. And for me, like the organizational side, I remember being in my mid-20s and playing in, like I said, tons of bands here in LA, and I would find myself waking up, I'd go to bed at like 3 a.m, and I'd find myself waking up at, whenever I'd wake up. And I'd kind of just amble through life. And it was this chaos that I wouldn't be able to, I felt like I was just kind of spinning my wheels, and I would just kind of show up to sound check, or I'd be learning songs, or I'd be working with this, and it was just, my goals at the time were like, I need to get better at the bass. I really need to get better at the bass because I want to be playing with those people. Or I need to work on my album. Like this thing, like I need to work on my songs, and but then, oh man, I'm waking up at such and such a time, and I remember all of those skills kind of coming together in different layers, but specifically at one point, just for me, what really helped was you're talking about loving structure. I do too. I just don't have any. But I think most people really respond to structure, and so you just need to create it. And you need to. For me, it was writing out my day, and I would And I would get really, there was about a month where I got really specific about it, down to 15-minute intervals. And I would write out, at this point, I'm going to have cereal. And then at this point, I'm going to read the news. Like, what do I want to do?
Did you stick to the list?
Maybe, ish, a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you like to cross it off as you go?
I did like crossing it off.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that's continued to today, and that's really helped. And I would recommend that to anybody in this world, like the arts world, the music world, or something that doesn't have the anchors of a schedule that other professions can. So that really did help me.
These projects and tours and all these things that you're doing at some point come to an end. And so when do you know, I guess it's time to close the chapter on something big or small that you're working on or in your life? And how do you kind of process that?
I think there's different ways of answering that for me. I guess there's one side of this music world that's really interesting, and it's when you go on tour, and it might be something akin to what somebody who travels for their job. When you go on tour with people, I remember the first time I really started going on tour. You go to these different cities, and it's really exciting. You're in your early 20s, and you're seeing the country, or you're seeing the world, and you're traveling in close quarters with other people, and you really get to know them. And if you're somebody like me or a lot of other people that are in this world, in this field, you really bond with people, and you really have this kind of sense of like, yeah, we're doing this together. We're seeing Seattle for the first time, or we're seeing Bologna for the first time, or we're seeing whatever, and you get to spend all this time with these people, and then the tour is over, and then everyone just goes back to their world, and it's bittersweet, and it's a little shocking to the system of just kind of like jumping into this kind of like really fast-moving life, and you're with these people in close quarters, and then you're just gone, and then it's over, and then like you might not see these people again sometimes in some situations. It can be disconcerting, it can be weird, and it can also, for me, it's made it easier to kind of compartmentalize certain projects in certain worlds, and for me, there have been some really big projects that I've decided to step away from for whatever reason, and usually it just certain things just take me away from home, and they take me away from raising my girls, and from it's a huge time commitment, and then other things you can just boil it down to like a project, like a song. Like when are you done with the song? Like when can you just step away from it? When is it done? And because I know that I've had projects and songs that I'll just keep adding to, and it's just like, we can just keep going with this. Like, or you'll see classic albums are remixed and remastered, and like there's new tracks on this new album. It's like, no, it wasn't. That album was done. It was finished, and we can let's just enjoy it for what it was and move on to another one. So it's not easy sometimes to leave a project, or leave a project, especially when you could keep pursuing it down a certain road. But for me, I've also found that usually there's a good reason for it to happen, and without fail, any doors that you close, other doors will always open. Like absolutely, it's always, I've always seen that to be true. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you always have a certain time of day that you choose to practice, or does it keep changing?
Do I have a certain time of day that I practice, or does it keep changing? I don't have a certain time. I would like to say that yes, I do. I have a certain time of day where I wake up at certain time of day, but no, right now things are really busy and life is busy. I find that I need to have instruments kind of just out and ready to just pick up and play, and make it kind of trick myself. It's just like fitness. Like when you exercise, you kind of trick yourself into running, you trick yourself into working out. It's similar for me with certain types of practice. So I'll kind of, just have a bass like that I have to just trip over in the house, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to pick this thing up and start playing. But for me, no, I don't have a specific time that I practice, like on a daily level. No.
Are you practicing daily most of the time?
Yeah, I try to practice daily. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, musically. So what I'll do is I play upright bass, the double bass. I play pizzicato with your fingers, but I also play arco with the bow. So that's like there are different things that you just need to kind of create that kind of like maintenance, like the strength and the agility, and also intonation. You're working on your intonation. There's a lot of things in that world that you can keep working on, like your sight reading, I will work through scales. I'll do that kind of a thing, but I've found myself doing other kinds of practice where I'll practice improvising a bass line and just kind of create something in real time and add rhythm to it, and then kind of create a riff or some sort of a groove, and I'll move that through different keys, and I'll kind of just do that kind of thing and move that through different positions. And then another kind of practice that I've been doing for the last 10 or 12 years has been learning songs and arranging songs for like a solo electric bass or solo double bass kind of arrangement. And what that's done is that creates tons of little problems and little hurdles. And then you get over the hurdles, and all of a sudden you've kind of learned these new skills or new voicings or fingerings for something. And then that shows up in writing, but it's also repertoire building, like, just learning a song and, a solo, but, something where like I need to play at least two voices, like the bass and the melody, and kind of create the harmony through that. What about you?
Question.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I feel bad taking away from performance time, but I'm curious. Okay. Like when you think of like your daughter's friends or like the future of bass playing, it seems like bass is on a mobile phone, kind of sonically, it's extracted, and it's like hard to hear the bass sometimes. And I just like, there's digital synthesis now. There's ways to not necessarily play the instrument. So I'm curious, like, are your daughter's friends or your daughter's like playing bass and practicing bass, and like, or the future of bass? Are you optimistic? How do you feel about that?
That's such a cool question. I love that. Well, first of all, I can really commiserate with I think it was it what's the Paul Rudd movie where he loves Rush and slapping the bass. What's that movie? Is that it? Yeah, I Love You, Man. And there's a scene where he's just like trying to get his girlfriend into Rush, and he has a laptop, and it's just so tailored to that question where he like plays it. He's just like, he can't hear the bass on this thing, like, and it's just like, for me, I'm like, yes, because it's true, my instrument kind of really suffers with this amazing technology that we have, but then but it's also crazy. I remember when iPhones or just phones started, well, you can play music from your phone, like on the phone. It's like we've kind of reverted back to like a transistor radio that we kind of carry around, and it's like, how amazing, where the bass suffers, and like that mono kind of a thing. Yeah, I think that the future of bass is great in a lot of ways, just because of the clips of young up and coming bass players that are just hurtling like leaps and bounds into like new direction of like what they can do on the instrument. It's amazing right now. That alone, what you can see on YouTube of just, you know, there's a bass player in Italy, a young woman in Italy that can just do this amazing stuff. And I think that the sound thing is something that needs to be ameliorated, really. You know, I think that's just, you know, like having like little speakers and all that stuff like takes care of it. And even like newer generations of laptops sound better than they did 10 years ago. So when Paul Rudd was opening up the laptop, you know, but I'm not afraid of that, especially with, there's just like, there's no shortage of interest in the bass right now. And there's just this kind of like insane level of proficiency that there wasn't 15 years ago. And it's directly because of technology and because of just seeing what somebody did. But the converse to that is like everyone's kind of just working this stuff up to put online.
Yeah.
And you're not developing kind of, you might not be developing deeper musical skills, which is just like patience and choosing your spot. You're trying to just give it all in this like little like 1 minute clip that you can upload onto Instagram, or like a one, you know, like these like, you know, because eyes will go away from it, you know. Right. So there's I guess with everything there's a converse to it, but I think there's a real, man, there's just some bass players out there that I can go down a rabbit hole, or sometimes I don't want to because it's just so overwhelming. It's so amazing what's out there, you know. Yeah.
You do know that you can upload more than a minute to YouTube, correct?
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, good to know. I do know where I am. Yeah. Get ready for that 40-minute long bass solo.
Coming soon.
I mean, Victor Wooten has like 2-hour long clips on YouTube and stuff.
Okay.
People watch it. So.
Which, you know, he's one of the big ambassadors of the instrument, and it's completely changed what you can do on the instrument, and but also is such a great educator. You know, he has this, do you know about his bass camp that he does? Mm-hmm. Victor Wooten, fantastic, you know, just a legend in the bass world and in music world. He has a maybe 2-week-long retreat in the wilderness outside of Nashville in Tennessee. And it's like a bass camping, meditating, self, you know, kind of a thing, retreat. And I mean, it just sounds amazing. I'd love to just go and participate and see what goes on out there. But anyway, there's a lot of that kind of cool, you know, outreach going on.
New album, second album.
Yes.
Pick one of your favorite songs and play us a tune, and maybe you can just give us a little brief highlight of the song and how it came to life, and have at it.
So for me, the idea of just playing a song was terrifying. And let me just back up in the sense that as a bass player, you're an accompanist. You're a supporter. You support, you know, the greater good. And this boils down to a conversation I had with my friend Katie when I was 17. She's a violinist and good friend of mine. We were right around the same age, and I ran into her at a cafe. And I said, "What'd you do last night, Katie?" And she goes, "Oh, I had a gig." And I said, "Oh, okay, cool. What was the gig?" And she goes, "Oh, I played at a restaurant, you know, solo thing. You know how it is." And I was like, No. I don't know how it is. I don't know what you mean. You know, like I'm just picturing, you know, just a bass player in the corner, you know, like while people, you know, like what do you mean? And you know, for the violin, there's endless amounts of solo repertoire written for the violin, you know, and then jump forward another 8 years, I was at a party at my mom's house, and she's not a musician, but she had other musical friends there and it's other friends, and she's like, great, there's musicians here, play. You know, and there's this thing with musicians where we'll sit there and there's this odd kind of like, what do you know? Like, do you know, oh, I know the bridge to this song, or, you know, and at that time I was on tour with an artist and you know, working as a musician, but then that idea of like, yeah, just play something was kind of daunting. I don't know if that kind of describes that, but then that led to, you're asking about practicing, that led to that idea of like, I want to arrange some songs for the instrument and just be able to play them, you know, and that's what this first song is. It's a John Lennon song. Thanks so much. This is a song from my album. It's a solo bass version of the first song on my album. My album's out now. It's called "Haunted This Way," and this is a version of the first song. And the song's called "The Half That Holds My Heart." You guys, thanks so much for having me, and you've been such a wonderful audience, and also it's just a great opportunity to get to speak to you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You don't know how to spend your money till you're broke. You don't know what to do with the day till the day grows old. You don't know how to love your woman till she goes, and you can't see the fire through the smoke. They say you gotta stay awake to live these dreams, but my life's in much better shape when I'm asleep, it seems. I'm staring at the answers, but I don't know what they mean. I couldn't see the forest through these trees, and if I had the words to say to make you stay, I'd spit them out. But I'm as silent as my grave, this grave I should be digging out. While you're walking down the street, I probably have it figured out. I just gave up half of me, the half that I can't live without, half that holds my heart, half that holds my heart, the half that holds my heart, half that holds my heart. Show me how to live my life more honestly. You showed me how I should and I shouldn't be. And so you showed me what a lover really needs. I couldn't see you there in front of me. And if I had the words to say to make you stay, I'd spit them out. I'm as silent as my grave, this grave I should be digging now. While you're walking down the street, I probably have it figured out that I just gave up half of me, the half that I can't live without, half that holds my heart, the half that holds my heart, the half that holds my heart, the half that holds my heart.
Thank you so much. Thank you.